It's time for that thing where I check the audio at the start of literally every single one of these. Assuming anyone is here and real and not looking to hawk discount pharmaceuticals in the chat. Can you hear me okay? And does the chat work? Which, hit and miss. Okay, cool. Thank you. Over on Twitch. Does the chat work? It does. Look at that. The technology of today, etc. Okay. Much like last time, we find ourselves faced with the tyranny of the blank page. And I would like very much, I think, to talk about the new design that has officially gone up as of yesterday. But what's to say that hasn't been said already? Because I did already talk about this a little bit. We're right into it, folks. I don't know if anyone's here for realsies. Well, I know one person's here for realsies, and I appreciate that. Because I did do, in the third newsletter, lo, those many years ago. Did I not put... Oh, that's weird. There's no need to fix this now. Forget what I named it. Good enough. I bet I didn't name it high score. Let's find out. Welcome aboard, team. Welcome to me trying to figure out in real time what I wrote. That was an update on the course branding. That's not very exciting. Which means I am free to use... Oh shit, the lander has landed. It's actually pretty good. Do an alt title like an episode of Rocky and Bullwinkle. A reference that people definitely still get here in the future. Alright, what's to say? Well, before I do that, why don't we actually look at it? I thought I was sharing everything. But I could see where I wouldn't default to doing that, huh? That sounds a little frightening. Yeah, good. Alright, we're looking at my website now, which we don't need to. But this, that's the good stuff. If I had a lot more people, it would be cool to do like Q&A about it. Boy, that's good. Let's stick with the high contrast for now. What's to say about it? Thrilling stuff, I know. This is what streaming's all about, is someone squinting into the middle distance, trying to remember what it was they had already written, and trying to think of new things to write. I think this is how all the cool kids do it. And that's, I believe, how you get, like, sponsorships, like a NASCAR. Someone just shows up and slaps a Home Depot logo on your stream, and then you get to retire, if I have that correct. So I have a couple of things that I had written down previously. I'm still not going to do full screen share, because that's a terrifying prospect. We will talk about... Oh, I can share multiple things. I didn't know this. We're learning in real time, folks. So if I flip over to this, it's that. If I flip over to this... No, this is nothing. None of this is anything. What are we even doing here? I was really hoping it would just share whatever had focus at the time. Thrilling stuff. Thanks for tuning in. So a couple of notes. Well, let's start as me. What do I do every single time? It's always the same bit, every time. Welcome back, by the way. Welcome back, by the way. Oh, this one I just went in on, huh? Doesn't have to be good. Big news. Squad. Team. Should I have come up with a name for you die hard JavaScript for everyone newsletter enthusiasts? That's actually not a terrible bit to start with. Welcome back, by the way. Do that. The newsletter. Now you get it. Listen, I'm distracted. This could be worse. This could be worse. How stylus spaces around M dashes, which is actually starting to appeal to me, despite the very long walk you have to take, and I assume that's because I still write JavaScript in the style of the jQuery team, which is huge spaces on either side of grouping operator or curly braces. All right. Listen. Sorry. I'm distracted. Pretty distracted today. Yeah, that could be worse. If anyone, this is a standing invitation. If anyone can think of better things to write in the newsletter than whatever it is I'm writing, you should paste them in the chat as a public service to me. You could just write it. You could write it if you wanted to just write the whole thing. That'd be cool. Though I will say this beats just finished last week writing everything there is about objects, kind of concluding with, oh yeah, absolutely I can. Concluding with property descriptors, which is cool and exciting and new and weird. And then this week went into what is an identifier? What are the rules of identifiers? And I've written that so many times. Is this anything? Big progress updates. Last week, writing everything you could possibly need to know about objects. Not really. There's so much. This one is unhinged so far. This is nothing. Property descriptors. We're going to jump back to the design in a second. Let me just do this. Which is new and ish and exciting. Opens up so many new aspects of development. So many, I already used the word new. Opens up so much thrilling potential in terms of today JavaScript development. This week I backtracked myself right about the rules of identifiers. Again, like the 5th. This is maybe too complainy, but whatever gets the fingers moving. My JavaScript writing career. And listen, it's not all bangers. The language that is JavaScript. Sometimes you gotta eat your vegetables. It's not all optimal chaining operators, which is one of the coolest things for me, a dinosaur. Presumably there's a second cool thing. Sometimes you gotta eat your vegetables. There's probably no application for this. But anyway, let's go back to talking about the design. Somebody graciously asked a question, which is my lifeblood on these streams. Does mean I have to change. There's gotta be a better way of doing this, huh? Someday I'll learn how to use computers. Yes. So one thing we wanted to avoid, well, I don't know, I covered this in one of the older newsletters. There is like a design trend in writing about JavaScript that is Apple Store with the lights turned off. It is black background, bright purple, bright yellow, a bunch of emojis, probably a sparkle one, probably a lightning bolt, and it's just like, it feels so tired. And I wanted something a little washed out on purpose, and a little retro futury, and that is inspiration taken from a couple of places, but I have pulled them up here. One of them is Near Automata, which, I mean, I'm almost certain I have talked about on the stream in the past, where it is still super futury, but like very, very washed out, which is different. It is a different approach to like retro future, which is what we were going for here. But low contrast is not great as a rule. So instead of doing a light mode, dark mode toggle, we just kind of have like a dim mode, bright mode toggle. Because I like this. My original thinking was like everything pretty washed out on purpose, which is rad. I think this looks great. And it's not something you see a lot. But also like, let's make high contrast available with a click. Which I think is pretty cool. So the dark mode, so to speak, is high contrast, which is really what you're going for when you're in dark mode. And the light mode experience is this dimmer mode, which I think is great. It's like if a Game Boy were good, which is why you get a bunch of these textures, these grainy, like, sort of pixely artifacts everywhere. I like it. I'm for it. Thank you for saying. It is easy on the eyes, which, like, I'm a habitual dark mode user, and it is frequently very so bright in your face, the text. Which is, I mean, this is something I did on my side too, where instead of going, you're in dark mode, you're in light mode, it's just sort of a grayish mode, and then, God, if I change this on the stream, what's going to happen, one wonders. Oh, accessibility, seeing, no, that's not where dark mode is here. Displays, color. Oh, wait, I have a shortcut for that, don't I? Somewhere. Dark style, light style. Yeah, so my light style is, I mean, very light. The contrast is about the same, but it's a super dark blue, this same red throughout. And then the dark mode is sort of the same approach, like this washed out thing, which I am a huge sucker for. So it's just that taken a little further with this guy. And I am saying all this like I did any of this work, and I am not the designer on this project. I am just the one who made unreasonable demands on the basis of having just read Wipeout Futurism for like retro future inspiration on things. and has played Nier Automata like 4 times, cover to cover. And also had just started playing, for maybe the 3rd time, Metal Gear Solid 3, which does a lot of the same stuff. It's like set in the 80s, but we're doing a bunch of future things, and they use the same like muted color scheme. It is a little solarized, which is where I came from long ago. Probably because this all has the same through line of appeal for me. But yeah, I think it's cool. And part of the, I don't know, I like the idea of doing something, and this is where I'm foisting unreasonable demands on the team at Set Studio, who did all the design here. Super limited in terms of the presentation, I guess. Like, we have one color throughout. It is this sort of salmon pink, including for me in the just the smuggest photo that's 10 years old. Very like limited accent stuff. And then you'll see throughout, this is very, as much as I'm like, make it look like Nier about literally everything. This is old-timey arcade game inspired. Oh, hello. Welcome, Evelyn. Pretty good. A lot of old-timey arcade game inspiration through this. Because I'm like an aspirational speedrun dork. Like, I really like the idea of just run at it, fail, run at it again, fail, run at it again, fail. And what is JavaScript if not that? It is all disposable. It is all like reload and it's gone. Getting good at it means getting bad at it for a long time over and over again. And oh, Chris Coyer is here also. The bad influence who keeps me streaming. This is your fault. You keep doing it, so I have to keep doing it because the cool kids are. Yeah, so this is meant to be a little retro future fun spot in Weir's Beach, like the old Star Wars arcade game. You remember the one that's all just what you don't. You collective probably don't remember the one. It was just like wireframes, and you held this big gunner joystick and shot at wireframes with individual wires. It was rad. It was a good game. So let me switch back. I mean, you can see as I'm switching things, there's certainly some arcade inspiration to this. Keep almost opening the wrong file. Not a great habit to be in. Cool. So where were we? Had we written anything? Just a bit. I had just written a bit. Big news, squad. Team. Should I have come up with a name for you? Die Hard JavaScript for everyone. Make this a link at some point. Like anyone reading this wouldn't know. Newsletter enthusiasts. Sickos. No, I probably can't. Oh, welcome back, by the way, to that. The newsletter I made. No, you get it. All right, listen, sorry, I'm pretty distracted today. Let's see. Oh man, what a thing to mention to me is having it set up so you could shoot at the little TIE fighter thing. Please hold, because I don't know if any of you have ever worked on a big writing project or even a small one like we're doing here today. It is very easy to procrastinate, again, just like right here on the stream, and not do that thing. So it was very important one day, for very obvious reasons, that I build this little code pen where you could try to target the TIE fighter and blow it up. And this took hours, not just of my one wild and precious life, but of my dedicated writing time for this course that people are expecting and will go live soon, one way or the other. And it blows up in random little patterns. It's not like good, but it shouldn't be, almost, for something like this, you know? You want it to be a little janky, like, oh, so that's how they did it. They just broke the shapes apart, because we're talking 80s arcade games. And this is extremely engineered and documented in code for no reason other than I didn't feel like writing that morning. So this is all pretty clutch, pretty important stuff for me. We're not using it on the landing page, but I did need to do it for some reason. Moving on. Maybe I'll try to convince them to work it in there. But yeah, worth every non-billable penny. You know? Why not? You gotta make your own fun. I think that was from a Calvin and Hobbes. And it's probably the closest thing I have to prevailing life's philosophy. Apart from the phrase being in trouble is a fake idea, which is from Akewood, a webcomic. We've gotten off topic. This whole thing's off topic. This is the off topic newsletter. Big news, squad team should have come up with a name for you diehard JavaScript for everyone newsletter sickos. I'm going to substitute it in my head. Oh, welcome back, by the way, to that. The newsletter, I mean. No, you get it. All right, listen, sorry. I'm pretty distracted today. Let's get right to it. The lander for the course just went live this week. Pretty distracted over here. Let's not make that temporal. Speaking of JavaScript. Just went live this week, and the trouble with announcing anything is that it always sounds like my exciting journey, you know? And I can only use the word rad so many times in a professional context. And it is, unless to precise spec rad, unless I throw to that other newsletter that I wrote. Note for me. Per my exacting specifications, I think I used the phrase rad as hell, which it is going to be rad as hell. I could probably use this. That's a couple words, right? Yeah, why not? Pretty good. I guess I'm throwing back to this already elsewhere. Per my exacting specifications. Is that how you use that? Per my exacting? Per my exacting demands? Nah, just leave it. We'll come back to that. Words on paper. Fix them later. Write on stream, edit off stream. That's the old saying. Man, I've been looking forward to writing this since day one. Today you're going to get your first look at the JavaScript for everyone branding, and folks, it is going to be rad as hell. Well, and rad as hell it is. Now here's a good recurring bit. Newsletters. No, that's no good. I'm going to make up a new name for the newsletter readers several times throughout the course of this. That's going to be my throwback bit. It's really all about landing on a bit. There's presumably some real content I should be trying to get across at some point in my career or life, but really it's more about coming up with a good bit I can drive into the ground like a railroad spike. No, not that. Rad as hell it is, newsletters. Do you want to talk about dark mode, dim mode? That's worth bringing up. Thank you for asking about that again. I am going to use this progress update. Rad as hell it is, newsletters, and it couldn't come at a better time for me personally. Last week I finished up writing everything you could possibly need to know about objects. Not really, there's so much. Working title. Which concluded with an extremely thorough, if I do say so myself, look at property descriptors, which are newish and exciting and open up so much thrilling potential in terms of day-to-day JavaScript development. And then this week I backtracked and made myself write about the rules of identifiers again for like the 5th time in my JavaScript writing career. That's maybe not, maybe don't actively complain about the project when updating people on the project. That I would really prefer people to like when you get right down to it. And listen, it's not all optional chaining operators, and I don't know, what's another cool thing I just wrote about? Spoilers. Nobody look if you don't want to accidentally learn JavaScript. Objects. Prototypal inheritance, which is not exactly new and exciting. Intro to objects. Oh, this is legible. I forgot to zoom way in. That's probably a good idea. There's a fun question for the chat, for you newsletters. Do people know the draw the rest of the owl meme by heart? Strap in. We drew a few circles learning about primitives. Now we're going to draw the rest of the owl. It's objects. It's everything else. It's the rest of the owl. That's something, right? Yes, okay, good. Should really be a curse in there, but I don't know what company policy is on dropping $10 cusses. The horse, yeah, horse is also a good one. Horse and or owl. That's, no, I'm not. This is not what I'm writing. I'm gonna draw, now we're gonna draw horses and owls, and then I do a little side thing where I talk about horses and owls. Let me bring up Notion for the weird stuff, because I've been writing, we've talked about weirding modules, I think. And that is, and they're not in my scratch paper here, because they are just something I go on a tear about that's completely baffling. That couldn't possibly fit in the course of like a regular module, like the fact that undefined is not a reserved word. It is instead a property of the... Here, let me just read it. You can't read this one, but... Hey, you know how true and false are reserved words? This is the weirding module, redefining undefined. You know how true and false are reserved words, immutable programmatic representations of the concepts of truth and falsehood, respectively? Can you imagine the untold havoc you could wreak on a project if you were able to redefine the very words themselves and alter the fundamental nature of true and false? Found a typo. It would be absurd for JavaScript to allow this, and indeed it does not, as true and false are reserved words. Undefined isn't a reserved word. Undefined is a property of the global object. True is a reserved keyword with an immutable value. True. Undefined is, in effect, a variable with a value of the concept of undefined. For a long time, that meant that you could assign a different value, globally, this isn't in there, to undefined itself. That doesn't work. There's a bunch of code snippets. I'm not going to read them out loud. That doesn't work anymore. It's one of the few wholesale changes to how JavaScript works over the years, making undefined a non-configurable, non-writable property as of ES5, I think. I have to confirm that. If you try this in any modern browser, it fails silently, trying to redefine undefined. Redefining the global undefined was wild enough that, no, developers, you are not allowed to do that anymore. That property is no longer writable. Tearing out all the old wiring and altering the fundamental makeup of undefined was still a bridge too far, though. Rules are rules, and changes to JavaScript shouldn't break websites in the wild. For all we know, some wild-eyed agents of chaos were out there habitually using undefined as an identifier for variables on purpose. It wasn't a reserved word, so on paper there was no reason they couldn't. They weren't, technically speaking, spec-wise, doing anything wrong. So because undefined couldn't be changed to a reserved word, and thus still isn't one, it can be used as an identifier outside of the global scope. Right now, in the current calendar year. And then there's a bunch of code snippets, heavily disclaimed, showing me doing that. Within the global scope, JavaScript will stop you cold to the tune of, you leave that word alone, I'm using that. And then you get your uncaught syntax error redeclaration of non-configurable global property undefined. Granted, using undefined as an identifier doesn't redefine the undefined data type itself. This is how my brain works now. That's not in print. It just creates one of the most confusing variables imaginable. Per the letter of the law, using the exact combination of characters that, in order, make up the word undefined as an identifier is allowed. But hey, listen. Don't do this. In fact, let me spin my chair around for this one, in keeping with the sacred rights of real talk. Do not do this. Tim Berners-Lee might not be mad at you, parentheses, just disappointed, but I will be. So that's an example of a weirding module, and that's like this word's doing a lot of work, but that's the cool stuff to write about. And meanwhile, what I've had to write about yesterday was the rules of identifiers. A variable is a data structure that allows you to assign a representative name to a value, to a primitive value, or in the case of objects, a reference to that value. Actually, all right, I talked myself out of it. For value, by value, by reference is actually kind of a cool thing to dig into. But identifiers, not so much. And the nuances? I guess it's not very nuanced, huh? You know, if I'd finished this early, if I'd actually written this newsletter, or at least had an idea for it in time and could blaze through it here, I would ask people what they thought about the way I'm explaining by reference and by value here. Because it mostly involves explaining the thing that already makes sense. All right, you know what? Yeah. Thinking of a variable, and this is not techno-regular edited, this is as of yesterday. Thinking of a variable as containing the value you initialize it with is common, largely harmless, and not quite right, based on how JavaScript manages values in memory. It's a completely academic distinction, but when a primitive value is assigned to a variable, the JavaScript engine technically creates a copy of that value and stores that copied value in memory as associated with the identifier. Granted, when it comes to something like const the variable equals 2, it doesn't really matter to us whether that variable contains the same discrete instance of 2 or a duplicate of that 2, which, if you're keeping score, is also a 2. I am going somewhere with this, I promise. Likewise, when a variable is initialized with a variable containing a... Oof, that sucks. I should do words better for that. This is first thought, only thought. A copy of that value is made again. So technically, we end up with 2 discrete instances of 2. Again, not that it really matters in practice. 2 is 2 is 2. Here's baby's first JavaScript. Naturally, if you were to change a value associated with one of those identifiers, only the instance of the value represented by that identifier is changed. See, this sucks. Like, everybody knows. Everybody knows what 2 is. These identifiers don't point to the same instance of 2 or anything. They each have their own discrete copy of 2. It's fair to say that these variables each contain 2 stored by value, and that's how I spent my summer vacation. Webster's dictionary defines value. It's not fun. It's not all exciting stuff like optional chaining operators. For very specific values of the word exciting. That's one for the old heads who've read the jargon file. Shout out to MIT, hometown heroes. The jargon file started at MIT. Does anyone know this? Sometimes you gotta eat your vegetables. Not all exciting stuff like optional chaining operators or can no, that's too many. That's too weird. Good enough. Rabbit holing. How many words is this? 373. That's probably enough for like an intro. Let me start over to recenter myself. This is just the I read stuff I just wrote out loud to everybody's stream. I don't think I'm going to get to retire off of this. I'm starting to wonder. And rad as hell it is, newsletters. No, not that. And it couldn't come at a better time for me personally. Last week I finished up writing everything you could possibly need to know about objects, not really there's so much, working title, which concluded with an extremely thorough look at property descriptors, which are newish and exciting and open up so much thrilling potential in terms of, we can use that a couple times, thrilling potential in terms of day-to-day JavaScript development. And then this week I backtracked and made myself write about the rules of identifiers. Did I use listen already? Yeah, I did use listen. It's not all exciting stuff like optional chaining operators, the language that is JavaScript. Sometimes you gotta eat your vegetables. Yeah, that could be worse. So what could be more welcomed than the greatest talking about how cool a design is? I can't possibly be coming up on an hour already, right? And have only written 400 words? That's how it goes. So what could be more welcome to welcome? So what could be better than what is arguably the greatest distraction of all? Talking about how cool a design is. Probably I want to use a image. I can't let myself get away with it. All right, good. So what do we want to talk about? Let's dev edit while writing, which all the pros will tell you is the best possible thing to do. Why, yes. It is the guy from season 11, episode 41 of the hit television program Judge Judy. That's real, and there is real video. And it is on my Plex instance, the only thing on my Plex instance, because I was given a copy, and it's mine. And I believe nowhere else. So if I tell you what, if I can retire off this course, I'll release it to the public. This very real video of my appearance as a witness on Judge Judy at the age of like 23. Oh, it's been tracked down. There was... how detailed do I want to get with this? I don't want it to be too findable. I wish to control the flow of information on this one a little. A friend posted on a Reddit, a subreddit, asking if there were any media archivists who had every episode of Judge Judy. And some number of years later, someone emailed said friend by way of their website to ask if they were still looking to track down that episode. And is it this MP4 here? And yes, indeed it was. There I was in it. You know, I'll tell that whole story on the next stream. We're so low on time, but that'll keep them coming back for more. But spoilers, guilty, 100% guilty. I was the witness. I didn't do it. I didn't steal the car, but someone did. Oh, cool. Oh, good. I'm 400 years old. That's neat. You were just born and I was already grifting. Well, everyone was grifting everybody. Daytime television is a little exploitative. I don't know if anyone might have assumed that. This is not the newsletter. What have you done? This is the most distracting thing you could possibly bring up. Anyway, yes, this is to say that every time you tune into this stream, I am going to be at wit's end, fretting about how few words I've written. And then I'm gonna, in my advanced age, after this stream, smash a Red Bull, which is poison, to my decrepit old body, and fugue out and hopefully come up with a couple hundred more words that are actually worth reading and aren't just oops all bits, which this is so far, huh? You know, sometimes I go into these with more of an idea for what I'm gonna do, and this is not one of those. So, does anyone have any, because we're short on time, how about discussion points? Does anyone have any questions about the lander and the decisions that went into it? Because that'd be a big help to me if we could do that. Let's crack this open. Theme for the course. Yeah, that one I talked through. Well, you know what? That one I talked through a little in newsletter 2 way back when. And frankly, I don't think anyone was subscribed to it at that time. So I could probably get a little more mileage. How did it get like this? That's a good note for me. So let's revisit that wholesale. Did I already open it up? I used rad deliberately back there. I have been squarely in my retro-future aesthetic era for a while now, which has no doubt evolved naturally out of my avid grindhouse movie consumption. What in the world did I link to here? Just the Wikipedia page. That's safe. Good. If there's one thing I like, it's an 80s film's depiction of the distant year 2000X, shout out to Mega Man, that's mostly centered around contemporary 80s clothing, but like, shiny. If there are two things I like, it's that first thing and also that first thing with the boom mic clearly visible in the shot. I like a movie that has enough budget to blow up 8 cars for no discernible reason, but does not have enough money to buy good wigs. That's the good stuff. And this is where I get into the why. And there's something here, and I don't need to talk about Snake Plissken again, but... Well, don't do that. That's free content. No one read the old stuff, so I could just keep resending. There's the plan. Unsubscribe, everyone. Start over. I've already got a few written. Which is why my primary ask for the look and feel of JavaScript for everyone was anything but the Apple Store with all the lights turned off look, a thing I've already said here on the stream. You probably know it. Any background color you want, as long as it's black. A wide range of foreground and accent colors, as long as they're blue to violet and yellow, respectively. Anodyne, cold, sterile, calculated in a laboratory to have a broad and texture-free appeal. No grit, no friction. And this was a lot better than anything I write now, huh? Did I use it all up? Maybe I used up all my good writing? Oh, the title. That's a good idea. I'm going to have to make it a little... I'm going to have to gussy up the reasoning behind it a little bit for public consumption, but it was that I always really disliked... That's not strictly true. The book was called JavaScript for Web Designers, which made it one in a series of a book apart books. HTML for web designers, CSS for web designers, JavaScript for web designers. And it fit enough in that it was aimed at, so you're not a JavaScript developer and you're intimidated by the idea that you are not a JavaScript developer. Yeah. But like, you don't have special JavaScript brain. This is, I think I might have done this already when I was talking about. Yeah, maybe this is a greatest hits newsletter, huh? Deep Magic, JavaScript brain, JavaScript through JavaScript. No, that wasn't it. Oh, here we go. Yeah, maybe I just need to touch on a couple of these points from the older newsletters. I've done a lot of writing about JavaScript over the years, and one of the through lines of all that should be one word, shouldn't it? Or hyphenated? Doesn't matter, I never spell check. Of all that writing has always been the idea that you don't need to have been born with a special JavaScript brain to sit down and start writing JavaScript. And that tracked with naming JavaScript for web designers, because I knew a lot of designers who weren't developers or anything. They just wrote JavaScript for a living, which, like, what are we doing? So I wanted to, I don't know, yes, you are a JavaScript developer. Anybody can be doing this. Anyone can do this. JavaScript for anyone. JavaScript is for anyone. And the name of it was still JavaScript for specific any's one. And that, I don't know, that's always rubbed me the wrong way. So right from the jump, no brainstorming. It was like, what do you call this? And it's JavaScript for everyone. So that's, yeah, that'd be good. Maybe I could just do sort of a recap of how'd we get here? Why is it like this? Newsletter sicko names. This is the thing everyone can help me with, perhaps most of all. Oh God. It should be about, I should do a Java newsletter. And just, I should do a Java newsletter as somebody who doesn't know anything about Java, but does know JavaScript and is like, I bet it probably works like this. I mean, it did in 1995, so I don't see why it would change. This is probably about the same. Now, if anyone has any ideas for a gender-neutral plural for people who are subscribed to the newsletter, like newsletters. Auto-rejected newsletter sicko names. I can't use sickos. I simply cannot. This is a professional context. It is like a, well, yeah, that could be. A gaggle of newsletter enthusiasts, a murder of newsletter enthusiasts. Yeah. Is it called a mask of raccoons? That's pretty good. Oh, but it's got to be, I can't stress enough. Fail? It's fail, yeah. It's got to be a word that sucks. Folks is good. Dorks is good. Well, dorks is too mean. No. I use dorks a lot. No. Sinners is a good one, but again, not really good for this. A flounder of newsletter subscribers. That's pretty good. A dork of subscribers. No. Undefines. No, that's too my immortal fan fiction. Syntax. Centurions. Sucks. I'm a professional writer. Door Q. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Door Q. Let me see if I can. That'll be how we close out the stream. Door Q. Let's find that infamous. There it is. This is, again, you can see where it's pretty easy to get distracted from doing the writing that needs to be done. Application window. An issue that will live in infamy. Homepage shows the project title of Grunt. I don't know if Vale, you might not have been born when Grunt came out. I'm so old. So many years ago. Ooh, something arcade themed is good. A fun spot of subscribers. No, that's too regional. Well, people probably know it from that King of Kong thing. I'm making a note of that even though you can't see it. High scorers. Oh, that's the truth. Yeah, I use dorks more than I should. Especially with the zine, which that has issue 2 still coming after I finish the course. I said it here on stream. It's recorded. No takebacks. Console loggers is good. Console logging crew. That's pretty. That's making it in. Yeah. Anyway, the Grunt project had an issue where on Android, I feel like it was 2.3, which is a very specific error in web development issues, where WebKit text stroke would for some reason rotate the characters by, I don't know how many numbers there were in it. Let's see, there's an explanation of it in here. Anyway, there was door queue. Everyone, it was all door queue for the grunt font. So maybe door queues is a pretty good. Oh man, the Android 2.2 through 2.4 era is home to some of my all-time favorites. There was a bug in the jQuery mobile days. I can't believe how distracted I am from writing the newsletter, but I guess that's how it goes. Where I think it was Android 2.2. If a select input had an opacity set of anything, and the parent of that input didn't have an explicit either opacity 1 or like an undefined opacity, like if you just typed in opacity : gibberish, this worked, but it didn't work if you had an opacity, the default opacity. That was it. You either had to set explicit opacity 1, even if it had UA opacity 1, or opacity some gibberish. Or clicking anywhere on the page after interacting with that select menu would only reopen that same select menu based on the opacity of it. That's a personal favorite from back then. I've gone off on a full tangent. You're reading the spec now. What are we even doing here? Oh, no, I didn't have the spec open. Okay, that was my other window. I did say I was going to show... I have 2 minutes, right? Because I did start this 10 minutes early. I did say I was going to talk about maybe doing a t-shirt. I don't know, man. I'm not a designer. Well, I mean... And I've been looking at old VHS cartridges, which... For some of you youngsters in the chat, the VHS was a... You remember iOmega zip disks, right? It was like that for videos. I've gotten so old. I didn't have this beard when the stream started, but now here we are. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing t-shirts, and I don't know what the interest would be in one that was just kind of the logo. So I was tinkering with, it's not really my logo to tinker with, and I also don't know how to use Lunacy, which is the software I'm using for this. Yeah, it sounds right. Oh boy, what a time. I still have some. I have a diehard VHS over there. Just don't know how it happened. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if just the logo really carries it, or if I need to do something way over the top. But as you can see here, boy, I don't know how to use Lunacy. It's like the Linux equivalent of Sketch, kind of, but it's very different, and also it constantly wants me to do some AI feature. And you can't dismiss it. But there is something very appealing to me about doing a JavaScript scrolled is for everyone, with a certain kind of color palette. Let us think on this. Oh man. My ultrasound was on clay tablets. That's how they used to do it back in the day. The doctor would just kind of adjust his big hat with a feather in it, as was the style at the time, and stand back a ways and just kind of chisel what they thought the kid would look like. And they nailed it, actually. It drew me as an adult, which was just terrifying. But there was a lot more psychics back then. Yeah. There's no reason these should look as cool as they do. This is a thing I do a lot with like Grindhouse movies, where I'm like, this looks cooler than it should, per the rules of things that look cool. Like, this looks great, but it's just kind of, it's like throwaway product design from back then. And how much of that is bias for the old, and how much of that is that actually these were really cool, which is sort of a stumbling point for me. Like the old Radio Shack logo. Is it just that it has? I mean, this is how the course design came about. This stuff has texture. It's not perfect. I mean, not the literal it's beat up texture, but like, I don't know that there is still Radio Shack, and I don't know what the current Radio Shack logo looks like, but I have to imagine it's basically Helvetica. Everything's basically Helvetica. And there's nothing, it's not weird anymore. Stuff's, I mean, this is maybe literally Helvetica looking at it, but like, I don't know, it's trying weird colors. Like, these are nothing. These aren't focus grouped. Why not? Why? That's what I wanted for the course design. Just like do something different. No half measures. That was the thing me and Jason talked about a lot. Jason, who did the actual design on this. No half-assing it. Like, go real weird. Big notches out of the logo. Because otherwise you end up back at, I don't know, some generic here's how to do X with React page, which I super didn't want. But yeah, we are at time, so I have not written anything. I've just sort of talked to everyone. Oop, cancel. Okay. A console of subs. A console has a console. Consoleers. Consultants? No. No, this is good. It's good to steer me off, or otherwise I'm just going to keep writing the same thing. And what we do have here is a framework for the presentation. There's a through line bit, which I definitely need. There's an arc to it where it's showing some of the progress on the course. Here's some stuff I've written about. Here's, I don't know, a teaser for something specific like property descriptors, which, not for nothing, I cannot for the life of me find like a really good start to finish write up. So I do think that's going to be really solid in the course. It is all, I don't know, like all the logos are just copying off each other and everything ends up Helvetica and safe, boring anodyne colors. It does feel a lot like a lot of JavaScript writing now is either automatically generated or might as well be from MDN, where it's just sort of like the terms and the rules. And I could not, for ages, find anything that was a really good write-up on how these actually work, property descriptors, and why certain fields meant it was one type of property descriptor or the other, and what like actually made that determination and the interplay between them. It was just like, here's a table, here's what these things are, move on. So this does, it is a good course, I think, if I can be so bold as to say. So let's get some of that in here too. That'd be good. You still gotta eat vegetables. I mean, vegetables are pretty good. I don't like using that phrase. I've been a vegetarian my whole life. Of course I eat my vegetables. Alright. Okay. It's a start. We're headed somewhere with this. I should not crack my knuckles on stream. Woof, I'm sorry. What a great way to close things out. Thank you everyone for all the help. And I will see you in, I probably shouldn't even use the term Fortnite on Twitch, even if it's dictionary definition Fortnite, but I will see you in 2 weeks for the next one.